Right now, on to the point. A new court ruling could change the way Californians vote in state and federal elections, where the legal battle now stands. Plus, an update tonight in the race for California governor.
We expect one big change, and that's turnout.
And ICE Air. A vast network of planes fly over American skies every day, carrying people from city to city. But a multi-state Tegna-led investigation found most of the flights never leave the country. But first tonight, we are following breaking news. Take a look at this. 3 semi-trucks and 5 cars crashed on I-80, bringing traffic to a standstill near Alta and the Sierra. 2 people are hurt. All westbound lanes have been closed in the area, and traffic is being turned around at Nyack. This happened around 3 o'clock today, and there is no estimated time of reopening. Make sure you stay with us for updates. And of course, goes without saying, make sure you can avoid the area if you can. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. A legal fight continues tonight over mail-in ballots. A new federal court ruling centered on President Donald Trump's executive order aimed at strengthening citizenship verification in federal elections and mandating that states share voter information. ABC10's Jeannie Nguyen is here to explain what the newest development could mean leading into the November election. Jeannie.
Well, Alex, the federal appeals court cleared the way for the U.S. Postal Service to restrict mailing ballots to states if they do not produce their voter rolls to the federal government. But experts here say there's still a lot that needs to happen before that could potentially be implemented.
We're not going to deliver mail-in or absentee ballots unless that state has provided eligible voter lists to the federal government.
On Friday, the U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that the U.S. Postal Service can move forward with the regulations laid out in President Donald Trump's executive order relating to mail-in ballots. With President Trump's focus on election integrity, the EO would give the U.S. Postal Service the ability to restrict delivering mail-in ballots to states if voter rolls are not handed over.
If this Trump administration effort were somehow successful, the federal administration could only impact federal elections, not state or local ones.
After President Trump signed the executive order in March, the NAACP filed a lawsuit arguing the U.S. Postal Service should focus on delivering election mail, not enforcing federal election policy. California Attorney General Rob Bonta also sued along with 23 other states challenging the order.
The states are the ones that run elections, and that the president has no place to tell the U.S. Post Office not to send the mail of the states. That decision is still intact. So this opinion does not in any way interfere with that decision.
A spokesperson with the U.S. Postal Service declined to comment, citing pending litigation. But in June, Postmaster General David Steiner appeared before Congress, telling lawmakers how the Postal Service will respond to the executive order.
So yes or no, if a state refuses to turn their absentee voter list over to the federal government, will the Postal Service still mail their ballots under this proposal rule?
Under our proposed regulation, no. We would tell the state that we need the manifest in order to, look, what we're asking for.
That's the answer. You would tell no.
And First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says this recent ruling is a win for election integrity. He declined an interview with us for this story. Secretary of State Shirley Weber also refused an interview and request for comment. I also reached out to the governor's office, who did not want to provide a comment either, Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you. In Your Voice, Your Vote tonight, we are just over 3 months away from the November election, and the race to replace Governor Gavin Newsom is taking shape. State Matters political reporter Jenny Hudd joins us with where things stand.
Political analysts say June's primary could be a preview of November. Turnout hit 41%, one of the highest for a California gubernatorial primary. Becerra led the field with 28% of the vote, followed by Hilton with 25%. Analysts expect even more voters to turn out this fall.
In one word, what would you describe the current state of the race?
Predictable. Anybody who's engaged in politics in California will tell you that This governor's race is predictably what the PPIC poll showed.
That latest poll on the California gubernatorial race by the nonpartisan Public Policy Institute of California shows Democrat Javier Becerra leading Republican Steve Hilton 61% to 36% among likely voters.
That kind of lead is very familiar in statewide races in California.
California remains a deeply blue state, with Democrats holding a nearly 2-to-1 advantage over Republicans in voter registration. In fact, a Republican hasn't won statewide office since Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor. The poll also shows voters are largely sticking with their parties. 93% of Democrats back Becerra, while 90% of Republicans support Hilton. And the primary election results showed just that.
When we go from primary electorate to the general electorate, we expect one big change, and that's turnout.
Election data expert Paul Mitchell says primary voters are often the most partisan and engaged. Now, in the general election, we can expect more independent, young, and Latino voters.
Independents are not so independent anymore.
Experts know independents, while not partisan on paper, reflect the politics of where they live. The PPIC poll shows independent voters lean towards Becerra by nearly double.
We have these sort of different climates of state politics and different flavors, even within Republican Party and within the Democratic Party.
Mitchell's new tool breaks down primary results by county. Some were expected, Mitchell says, like progressive Bay Area Democrat Tom Steyer winning Alameda, Marin, San Francisco, and Santa Barbara counties. But strategic voting was in play as voters on both sides clutched onto their ballots.
And this hidden candidate was, oh my gosh, no candidate from my party is going to make the runoff.
And so experts say Democrats debated between likely advancers Becerra and Steyer, opting for Becerra, and Republicans for Hilton rather than Chad Bianco.
Some counties, like more conservative Central Valley counties where you would have expected Chad Bianco to do better, Hilton ended up winning there.
In response to the PPIC poll, the Becerra campaign tells us they're keeping their eyes on the prize. The Hilton campaign, meantime, pointed to their internal poll, countering the race remains highly competitive and wide open. Jenny Hutt, ABC 10.
And when it comes to funding in these races, it might be hard to beat spending in the primary. California's June primary for the governor's race is the most expensive primary ever. Special interests spent at least $79 million, and Tom Steyer, who did not advance to November, poured in at least $213 million, according to Cal Matters. All right, stay with us. Still a lot more news to get to, like the war in Iran. It is escalating today as the Pentagon identifies more service members killed over the weekend, and a Tegna-led investigation where flights go that move thousands of ICE detainees across the country. But first, another headlines tonight. Dramatic video shows a man running outside of a federal immigration court in New York and setting the sidewalk on fire. Law enforcement rushed to the scene and a security officer tackled the suspect. The FBI says the suspect used fireworks to start the fire, and that he also had a pellet gun and a sign that read "ICE off our streets." The Department of Homeland Security saying writings were found in his bag. They also say 2 people were hurt. Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery have to halt their $81 billion merger for now. 12 states, led by California, sued to block Paramount's pending buyout, saying it violates antitrust law. A judge issued a temporary restraining order today for 2 weeks. The states will now need to seek a preliminary injunction, which could freeze the merger for months. And first responders pulled out all the stops over the weekend to rescue a small dog spotted swimming alone in the San Francisco Bay. The Menlo Park Fire Protection responded to the area after getting calls about a dog in the water. They rescued it, kept it warm, and called the local SPCA, who helped reunite the dog with the family. They had reportedly been looking for it since July 4th. All right, now to a wildfire forcing evacuations in Yuba County. The shoot fire is burning near Dobbins. It has burned about 20 acres so far. Evacuation orders and warnings are now in effect for those living in the area. And we are also following a fire in Yolo County tonight. The Rumsey fire is burning off Highway 16 in Rumsey Canyon. CAL FIRE says they are making good progress and estimate that the fire is now sitting at about 120 acres. And I do want to bring in Brendan now. Brendan, you know, as we've been talking about even during the break, we don't really see a lot of those fire weather conditions right now outside of being dry. What's kind of going on here?
No, yeah, definitely. It's a good point to make, is that it's not real windy, it's not real hot. everything's very seasonal. We just haven't had rain. It's been very dry. Everything is drying out, and so we're not going to get better. Our fire situation's not going to improve until we get back to the rainy season and we get our first good soaking rain, which hopefully will come as early as October, but we'll have to wait and see. I do want to talk about Tropical Storm Elita, or at this point, post-Tropical Elita. It's fallen apart, getting picked up by the overall weather pattern here. There's lots of moisture in the atmosphere, both from the monsoon, but also from this decaying tropical system. And as we look at radar and satellite, you notice the cloud coverage, you notice some green on the radar, some thunderstorms down near Yosemite. I mean, if you've been outside at all today, you know it feels a little sticky. You may have noticed what looks like rain off in the distance, but then it doesn't ever show up at the ground. The reason for that is, despite us seeing these returns on radar here, there's moisture in the upper atmosphere. It's very dry lower in the atmosphere. So this is what we call moist air aloft. Red is temperature, green is humidity. You notice when we go up in the atmosphere, in the middle of the atmosphere, that green line, the red line, very close together. The air is very saturated, very moist. But as we get closer to the surface, there's this big layer of dry air. So it's raining up high, but then that rain starts to evaporate before it even reaches the ground. So it's called virga. That's why you may have seen some streaks in the sky off in the distance. But again, that rain evaporates before it hits the ground. Just leaves things kind of a little sticky out there. A little warm, 87 Sacramento, 87 in Stockton, 88 in Placerville, 79 in Tahoe. Not a lot of onshore wind, but about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Some places closer to 15. 87 as we look towards Sacramento. And as we head through the evening, we're going to be in the 70s. Because of the cloud coverage, some of that humidity, we're going to be in those mid 60s by the time we get to Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, warm and a bit sticky. We'll be near 100 degrees, and we've got a flood watch for parts of Tahoe and down the eastern slope. A few scattered showers tonight, but tomorrow with that humidity sticking around and that final push of moisture coming in, we'll see some thunderstorms popping up as we go through the afternoon. Once we get through tomorrow, though, we're back towards seasonally dry and hot. Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Still ahead, a Tegna-led investigation into the system transporting ICE detainees, and the new details tonight. The father and son accused of holding 2 federal employees hostage appearing in court today. A father and son accused of holding 2 federal employees hostage near Gumboot Lake in Siskiyou County last week made their first federal court appearance just today. Newly released court documents show 2 U.S. Forest Service biologists were conducting frog habitat research when Father Joseph Henriksen approached them with an AR-15 rifle. Prosecutors say he ordered the women to put their hands up in the air, zip-tied their wrists behind their back, and then forced them into a nearby camping trailer. Investigators say that Henriksen then forced one of the hostages into a Forest Service truck and used her phone to call a ranger and another person demanding to speak with the FBI. Henriksen's son, Phoenix, is also accused of watching over one of the other employees. Negotiators spent hours trying to convince them to surrender. This dashcam video showed some of that response.
What's that?
What's the occasion?
We got an armed standoff going on with hostages.
Oh my God.
So you're going to run into a police blockade real soon.
A judge found both Joseph and Phoenix Henriksen pose a danger to the community and are a flight risk, ordering them held without release. Both were appointed federal defense attorneys. Overseas, the war with Iran is escalating. 3 U.S. service members were killed over the weekend. As ABC's Christian Cordero reports, the growing tension is sending oil and gas prices up yet again.
It's been 9 consecutive nights of back-and-forth airstrikes across the Middle East. The IRGC released these images today. It says show missiles being launched toward U.S. positions in the region. It's unclear when these videos were filmed. U.S. allies Bahrain and Kuwait are among those saying they've detected incoming Iranian attacks today. So far, all missiles and drones have been intercepted. But over the weekend, an Iranian strike on a U.S. base in Jordan left 2 service members dead and 1 missing. The Pentagon identified the service members killed as 19-year-old Private Isabella Gonzalez of Texas and 25-year-old First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan of Hawaii. The Pentagon adds a 3rd U.S. service member was killed in Iraq during the controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone. That person has not yet been identified. President Trump today posted on social media, quote, "Every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over." He He didn't elaborate. As the U.S. and Iran inch closer to an all-out war, many issues that were once on the table are now far from resolved, including the status of the Strait of Hormuz.
And that is exactly what Iran is responding with. They're striking ships to keep them out of the Strait of Hormuz. They're striking desalination plants. And there's some indication that they're adjusting the way they do targeting to make it more difficult to intercept them.
The lack of traffic moving through the strait is sending gas prices back up to $4 per gallon of regular in the U.S., according to AAA. The White House says the president will attend the dignified transfer of the fallen U.S. service members tomorrow at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
And here is a look at the average price for a regular gallon of gas in California right now. According to AAA, it's going to cost you about $5.50 a gallon. That's up almost $1 compared to this time last year. Tonight, the Trump administration is denying a New York Times report that says federal agents have been told the FBI will no longer investigate confrontations involving immigration agents. Such cases would reportedly instead be handled by an agency called Homeland Security Investigations, effectively leaving the agency to investigate itself. The FBI and Homeland Security say this is false. Tonight, in a new Tegna-led investigation, a vast network of planes flies over American skies every day, carrying not cargo, but people from city to city. ICE Air Operations is well known for its flights out of the country, but a multi-state Tegna-led investigation found that most of the flights never leave the U.S. It got investigative reporter Chris Vanderveen wondering why.
People don't realize what's happening in our community.
One day, one plane.
It's not like anything I've ever seen before.
ICE Air Operations is once again
It's astounding.
on the move.
Just the number of people that are moved daily.
From Youngstown, Ohio, we watched as a plane known as Tyson 57 headed east to Bedford, Massachusetts.
What we're seeing here is a piece of a nationwide, giant-scale secret operation whisking people around the country and then out of the country.
This is what we wanted to document, a secret network of planes that don't fly people out of the country, but across it.
Everyone should care kind of about these flights in particular.
Savi Arvi with Human Rights First, a national immigrant advocacy group, worries flights intended to assist with deportation also appeared to be doing something else.
People are being treated like Amazon packages, kind of just shuffled about and then, flown out of this country.
From Massachusetts, Tyson 57 headed west to Indianapolis, Indiana. Here, a dozen or so boarded. From Indy, our camera crews recorded one more stop.
People deserve to know what happens to them, not to disappear into the black hole.
Alexandria, Louisiana, the nation's busiest ICE Air hub.
You'll see them line up. They just keep coming.
In 2023, the then acting ICE director in front of Congress estimated these charter flights run $17,000 an hour. This day's journey, 7 hours. By that estimation, $119,000 from start to finish. And Tyson 57 was hardly alone that day. We identified, tracked, traced 65 flights in all, most of which never left the U.S.
Naturally, you need to know where your person is.
Seattle-based attorney Jenny Pasquarella says what we found, she sees often.
I had a client detained in Maryland who ended up in Louisiana, then in Texas, then finally to Tacoma, where I met her.
Our investigation identified 91 planes operated by 8 private companies carrying out what we believe to be the bulk of ICE Air's domestic flight network. ICE told us it moves based on bed space, medical needs, and other factors, and will not comment on specifics, citing operational security purposes. Tomorrow, the planes will fly again, a little understood, seldom documented, domestic-only transfer system that's taking place over American skies daily. This is Chris Vanderveen reporting.
And this is all part of a much larger investigation. You can watch the full investigation, ICE Air, Inside America's Secret Deportation Network. It is streaming tonight at 8 p.m. on the ABC 10 app. Still ahead, an update on that Taylor Farms recall and the lettuce, what you need to know. Before we go here, we want to mention that the FDA is walking back reports that a parasitic outbreak causing a stomach illness began with Taylor Farms. The agency said on Saturday that a sample from Taylor Farms' Mexico facility had tested positive, but on Sunday, after further examination, the FDA said that the result was a false positive. A statement from Taylor Farms says the FDA notified them and apologized to the company. Out of an abundance of caution, the product is still being pulled from shelves in 27 states. The FDA says that it continues to test lettuce to identify any possible positive samples. I do want to note, though, that California has not seen a dramatic surge in cases. That is our show tonight. As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should be looking into, you already know you can reach out to the team and I at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. We'll see you right back here on Tuesday.